When it comes to real estate, what does the future hold? What will the market look like? Will it be a strong bounce back? Are home prices going up? Are they going down? Are they going to be stable? What's happening with interest rates? Well, let's look for our crystal ball. Or I could just ask Marvin Ryder from the Degroote School of Business at McMaster University in Hamilton.
And we will get back to something that resembles normalcy. And when we get to the other side of this, remember what we've got. We've got the lowest interest rates in Canadian history. The Bank of Canada rate, 0.25%. You can get a mortgage today. I think some of the smaller institutions, you might even be able to get a mortgage at 1 point something for on a fixed term for 5 years. In theory, that should be superheating the housing market. We should see the number of houses going up, the sales going up, the prices going up on some crazy levels. That is not happening because of the lack of confidence.
Mm-hmm. So the big question is, when we're out of all this, obviously it's not going to happen like a switch, like we're hearing in a month or 2 months from now. It'll be a gradual back to normalcy. The longer we're in this kind of gradual out, I guess, will be the longer the market takes to really get back, right?
That's really the million-dollar question, or billion or trillion-dollar question at this point. We've never in our history asked the world's economies to go into what we call hot idle mode. That's a term we use in steelmaking, where you don't turn the blast furnace off. You're not making steel, but you don't let anything cool down, so that whenever you're ready, you can just start going back. We do this when there's an emergency, like a flood or a hurricane. But when we do it for 36 hours or 48 hours, and then we very quickly go back to normal. So the first problem is we don't know how long we have to be in hot idle. And the longer we're in hot idle, the more support government needs to keep it in hot idle. In other words, to keep everybody ready. And the government doesn't have an infinite amount of money. So I think we're betting on this being 2 to 3 months, and then hopefully we can start to go back into production. But then when we do, is it what we call a V-shaped recovery, meaning that it instantly shoots up? Or is it a more U-shaped response? And we don't know. Now, my crystal ball is no clearer than anybody else's. I actually think it's going to be more V-shaped. When I tell people they can't do something, like you can't go out and buy a pair of shoes, or you can't buy a new shirt, or you can't get your hair cut, what's the one thing you desperately want to do now? You want to get your hair cut. When we get to the all clear, I think consumers are going to come out of the woodwork and resume spending fairly quickly. Now, what does that mean? I'm thinking a month or two. I actually think by Christmas time, we might look back at this and wonder what the whole big deal was about, that we all survived it. Hard to imagine that today, but that confidence, that consumer confidence, can actually turn on a dime. Maybe give you another parallel. 9/11, terrible day in American history, when those planes flew in and there was a loss of life. And for 2 or 3 or 4 days, we were rattled. Our world didn't seem to make any sense anymore. But within 4 months, we were pretty much back to normal. And other than some rules at the airports, it was almost like nothing really happened. I think this has the same potential. The only key here is, and we're watching, of all places, Wuhan, China, where this all began. They have started to lift these restrictions. What are we watching for? A second wave. The one thing we do not want to have, we want to hunker down, do what we have to make COVID go away, and then go away. If it turns out they've opened the doors too early and they start getting a second wave, then we're all going to learn from that. We're going to have to hunker down more. But whenever we get to the other side, I honestly think the recovery will be fairly quick.
I think so too. I just noticed how hot the market was at the end of February, and even a little bit early. Like, people were like bidding on houses, and then it was like, whoa. So you have all these people who wanted to buy then, who are kind of in limbo, plus you have everybody else whose lives have changed over the past month, whether it be divorces, or whether it be jobs, or just the ants to do something different. So you combine that with the people who wanted to buy and needed to buy, and now you have all these other people, like I said, like, who knows, maybe it will be that V-shape like you're predicting.
Yeah. The other question when we emerge, of course, is what will be your personal financial shape? We know there are 5.5 million people getting these CRB payments, but that still means that 75 to 80% of people are not unemployed and their livelihood has not been affected. So financially, they may not be in that bad a shape. Now, those other 20% of people, these CRB payments don't cover everything. $2,000 a month was not going to give you money that you can go throwing around. It was really just to cover the rent, the hydro, the gasoline costs, and it may take them 2, 3, 4, 5 months or more to recover. And I don't want to sugarcoat this, Sean. There will be personal bankruptcies. There will be individuals who were so close to the edge that any little perturbance at all to their income streams is going to send them into bankruptcy. Same with some businesses. You know, I hope all the businesses return, but there were a few of them that were just on the knife's edge. This will probably be enough to send them to the other side. But most of us, 95% of us, will come back probably very quickly to have our same financial position we had in January, February, before it all began, and that desire is there. Now, timing becomes an issue. You know that the big time to buy a home, many people love to buy a home and move in the summer. We're all in position for the kids in the fall when school starts. Not as many people are keen as buying a home in November, maybe given Christmas holidays, what have you. So when we emerge might make a difference, but if you look at it not on any 1 month, but over the course of a year, I think we'll get back pretty quickly to the way it was before. In fact, here's the danger. If we leave all of these interest rates as low as they are, you could start to see these crazy things where housing prices jump 14, 15, 16% in a year. Now that's great, obviously, if you own a home, but if you're trying to get into the market, it makes it less affordable. So another key bellwether will be how fast the Bank of Canada now says, I can start to put the interest rates back to something more normal. And that will all have to happen about the same time. So I still think there's going to be some churn in the latter half of this year.
Interesting. Good information. I think I agree with you on everything. Anything else?
Damn.
Yeah, I think it's just
other than to say, you know, people in the real estate market, whether you own a home, you're thinking about buying a home, you're in the business of selling homes, this has put an upset into everybody. And if you are having a problem with the mortgage, talk to the bank. The banks do not want to foreclose. They don't want to be kicking you out of your homes. They don't want to be doing this. And banks have tools, but they can only use those tools if you engage them early. I know what most people try to do. If I'm having some financial problems, let's keep it quiet. Let's not tell the bank. I'll find a way to make it work out. And then when you can't, it's almost too late. You hamstring the bank to helping you. So if you're having some problems, or if you're a renter, even at this point, and you're having some problems, talk to the people you're renting from, talk to the bank. I think we're going to be amazed at some of the things that people are going to be able to do to help you get through this. You're not alone. And I think that's a very important message for people to get out. Whatever your desires are, yes, put them on hold temporarily, but to keep yourself financially healthy during this time period is just as important as being physically and mentally healthy. Involve them as you go.
I know the banks, like, it's very easy for people to put their mortgage payments on hold. There's almost no questions asked. But then there's a cumulative of interest too. I know the opposition, NDP, was talking about that. If you're going to put your mortgage payments on hold, come on, banks, don't charge interest. Otherwise, it's a win-win situation for the banks in the long run.
Right. Well, and those are key questions. You know, what do they have to do for the people? I give you a simple example: credit cards. The banks have said if you're in a difficult time with the credit cards, they're prepared to reduce the credit card interest rate to something like 10% from what had been 26%. That's not good news for me because I'm not in financial trouble. I can't go to the bank and say, hey, I'll take advantage of that 10% rate. They go, no, Mr. Ryder, you're not having any problems paying your bills. Keep paying your bills.
Right.
And again, as bad as people think of the banks as being big, bad institutions sitting on great big pots of cash, they have responsibilities to their shareholders who are mostly pension funds and pensioners. So they're going to also adjust, but to do what they have to do under the circumstance. So just engage. Don't think you're in this alone. Involve other people, whether you have to do it this way as opposed to sitting opposite somebody at a desk. There are tools available. And the same thing when you get to the other side and you're thinking about buying property. Banks are in the business of lending money. They only survive if they can lend money. They will want to do mortgages. That's not their major thrust here in April, but it will be come June or July. I wouldn't even be surprised to see some of the banks having, for lack of a better term, a sale, discount mortgage rates for just a little while to help reheat interest. So just watch as this evolves. Get ready to jump when the situation's right for you.
Very good information.